Welcome to Land of Horror. Today, we will continue our journey to explore the most chilling mysteries. Do you have the courage to face spooky stories, terrifying legends, and unexplained supernatural phenomena? Join me as we delve into haunted places, dark secrets, and legendary figures that will send shivers down your spine. Before we begin, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any videos, and let's step into the world of Land of Horror together. Get ready, because thrilling moments await you. Are you ready to explore? Philadelphia, 1977. The air was thick with the scent of damp pavement and smog, an aromatic reminder of the tumultuous times. Philadelphia was alive, not just with the sounds of traffic and bustling crowds, but with a fervor for change. Protests erupted on street corners, students rallied against the Vietnam War, and environmentalists like Ira Einhorn held impassioned speeches, drawing large crowds to hear his radical ideas about saving the planet. He was a local celebrity, known as the Unicorn, a nickname he embraced, spinning tales of hope that masked the shadows lurking beneath. Ira Einhorn was the embodiment of charm, with tousled hair that gave him an air of wildness, and eyes that sparkled with zeal when he spoke. He had an uncanny ability to draw people in, to make them believe in his vision of a greener world. Yet, behind the warm smile and magnetic presence lay a darkness, intense possessiveness that manifested in subtle ways, often masked as concern. Holly Maddox, on the other hand, was a vibrant young woman in her early 20s, full of dreams and aspirations. She was attending the University of Pennsylvania, passionate about literature and the arts, navigating her way through a world of ideologies and expectations. Drawn to Ira's charisma, she initially admired his passion and dedication, but as their relationship deepened, the cracks began to show. It was a humid afternoon in early May when Holly first attended one of Ira's rallies. The crowd was electric, a sea of raised fists and slogans. Ira stood on the makeshift podium, his voice booming, echoing through the streets as he passionately declared, "We must save our planet from the brink of destruction. Together, we can make a difference." Holly felt the power of his words resonate deep within her. She was captivated, both by the message and the man delivering it. As the crowd dispersed, Holly found herself drawn to Ira, their eyes meeting amid the chaos. He approached her with a warm smile, extending his hand. "You were incredible out there," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "Thank you," she replied, her cheeks flushing. "Your speech was inspiring." Thus began a whirlwind romance. They spent evenings discussing philosophy, the environment, and their visions for a better future. Ira introduced Holly to his circle of activist friends, immersing her in the vibrant world of social change. Yet, beneath the surface, Holly began to notice Ira's need for control, a subtle shift in his demeanor when they were together. As summer rolled into fall, Holly's once enlightening relationship with Ira began to feel suffocating. It started with small things. Ira wanted to know where she was at all times, whom she was with, and what she was doing. At first, she dismissed it as concern, but it gradually morphed into something more oppressive. One evening, Holly was out with friends, laughing and enjoying the fleeting moments of youth. When she returned home, she found Ira waiting on her doorstep, his expression dark. "I was worried sick about you," he said, his voice low, almost menacing. "I told you I'd be out," Holly replied, confusion and frustration bubbling up inside her. "I know, but you didn't call. What if something happened?" He stepped closer, invading her space, the warmth of his presence replaced by a chill. "Ira, I'm fine. You can't control me like this," she retorted, her heart racing. His eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment, she glimpsed the darkness within him. "I just want what's best for you," he replied, a hint of pleading in his voice. In that moment, Holly felt a surge of panic. What had started as passion now felt like a cage. Days turned into weeks, and the tension grew. Holly found herself retreating into her own world, distancing from Ira and his friends. She began spending more time at the university library, losing herself in books that transported her far away from reality. It was there, among the pages of forgotten tales, that she found clarity. She needed to reclaim her independence. The final straw came on a rainy September evening. Ira had planned a gathering at his apartment to discuss upcoming protests, but Holly felt an overwhelming dread. As she stood at the door, she hesitated. Could she really do this? Could she leave? The echo of laughter from within sounded like a distant memory of joy, now tainted by fear. Taking a deep breath, she turned to leave. Just then, the door swung open, and Ira appeared, his face lighting up when he saw her. "There you are. I was just talking about you," he said, his voice laced with false warmth. "I'm not feeling well," she said, her heart pounding. "I think I should go home." His expression darkened, the charming mask slipping. "You can't just leave like that. We need you here, Holly." "I need to go," she said firmly, her resolve hardening. "I thought you were different." "You're one of us," he replied, disappointment evident in his tone. But Holly had made her decision. "I need to be me," she whispered, pushing past him and into the rain-soaked streets, each drop washing away the illusion of peace she had clung to for so long. As she walked away from Ira's apartment, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. But little did she know, her decision would send shockwaves through her life, awakening a storm of rage and darkness within Ira that would lead to unimaginable consequences. In the days that followed, Holly would come to understand the depths of Ira's obsession, a journey that would intertwine their fates forever. The vibrant city of Philadelphia, once filled with the sounds of hope, would soon echo with the whispers of a tragedy waiting to unfold. Early September, Philadelphia. The air had turned crisp, signaling the onset of autumn, yet it held an oppressive weight for Holly Maddox. The vibrant city that once felt alive and full of promise now seemed shrouded in a gray mist of unease. As she moved through the bustling streets, she felt a growing sense of isolation, a stark contrast to the vibrant discussions and protests that once filled her days. The weeks following her decision to distance herself from Ira were both liberating and terrifying. Holly had returned to her life as a student, throwing herself into her studies, desperately trying to suppress the memories of her tumultuous relationship. Her friends noticed her change in demeanor. She was quieter, more reserved. Though she put on a brave face, anxiety crept into her thoughts like a persistent shadow. One evening, as she sat in the university library poring over her coursework, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. The message was cryptic. "I hope you're safe. You don't know what he's capable of." Holly's heart raced, and she felt a chill run down her spine. She glanced around the library, scanning the faces of fellow students, searching for someone watching her. Was it a prank, or was someone genuinely warning her? Holly dismissed it as paranoia and tried to focus on her studies, but the unease lingered. In her mind, Ira was always lurking, a ghost that refused to be exorcised. A few days later, Holly gathered her courage and made plans to retrieve her belongings from Ira's apartment. It was a chilly morning when she arrived at the familiar doorstep, memories flooding back with each step. As she stood before the door, she hesitated, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. When Ira opened the door, his smile was warm yet unsettling. "Holly, it's good to see you," he said, his voice dripping with feigned sincerity. "I'm just here to collect my things," she replied, trying to maintain a calm facade. "Of course. Let me help you." He stepped aside, gesturing for her to enter. The familiar scent of incense filled the air, masking an underlying odor that was almost imperceptible. As Holly gathered her belongings, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The atmosphere in the apartment felt charged, thick with an unspoken tension. "I hope you're doing okay," Ira said, casually leaning against the wall, arms crossed. "You've been distant." "I just need some space, Ira," she replied, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "Space? Or maybe you're running away from something?" His voice turned icy, and Holly felt a knot tighten in her stomach. "No, I'm just trying to find myself," she insisted, her voice trembling slightly. "Be careful, Holly. Not everyone is as they seem," he said cryptically, the smile fading from his lips. The hair on the back of her neck stood on end. "I'll be fine," she assured him, hastening her efforts to leave. With her belongings in hand, Holly stepped back into the crisp autumn air, the weight of dread lifting as she left Ira's apartment behind. But the warning from the mysterious message echoed in her mind, leaving her unsettled. Over the next few days, Holly tried to put distance between herself and her past. She immersed herself in classes and spent time with friends, engaging in discussions about life and literature. But as the days turned into weeks, her anxiety began to morph into something deeper, something darker. One evening, while walking back from a cafe, Holly noticed a figure trailing her from a distance. It was a shadow in the periphery, always just behind her. She quickened her pace, her heart racing, but each time she glanced back, the figure seemed to fade into the darkness. The paranoia escalated. She confided in her close friends about her fears, sharing the strange message and her experiences with Ira. They urged her to report it to the police, but Holly hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the creeping dread that had settled in her chest. Days turned into an agonizing blur, and on the morning of September 7, 1977, Holly planned to visit a local co-op to pick up some groceries. She woke up early, determined to embrace the day. Dressed in a bright blue sweater and jeans, she left her apartment with a sense of hope, believing that she could finally move forward. However, the trip to the co-op never happened. As the hours passed and her friends grew concerned about her absence, a knot of anxiety formed in their stomachs. Holly was known for her punctuality, and it was unlike her not to check in. When evening fell and Holly still hadn't returned, her friends decided to go to her apartment. They knocked, called her name, and even checked local hangouts, but there was no sign of her. Panic gripped them as they realized something was terribly wrong. With each passing hour, the search for Holly intensified. Her friends reported her missing to the authorities, detailing her recent unease and the strange warning she had received. Detective Sarah Thompson, a seasoned investigator known for her tenacity, was assigned to the case. As Sarah arrived at Holly's apartment, she observed the signs of a life interrupted, books strewn about, half-finished assignments, and a phone that lay silent. The absence of any struggle, however, deepened the mystery. "This is unlike her," one friend said, desperation lacing their voice. "I'll need to speak to anyone who may have seen her last," Sarah replied, already pulling out her notebook. "Tell me everything." Through interviews, a picture began to emerge of Holly's recent life. The stories of her friends echoed the same themes. She had been anxious, withdrawn, and fearful, particularly regarding her relationship with Ira. Sarah's instincts kicked in. "We need to find Ira Einhorn," she said, her eyes narrowing. "He may know something." As the investigation unfolded, the police found Ira in the midst of organizing another environmental rally. The charismatic activist had a reputation that preceded him, but with each inquiry, the unease surrounding his name grew. "Ira, we need to ask you some questions about Holly Maddox," Sarah said, her voice steady as she approached him after the rally. "Holly? What about her?" Ira's demeanor shifted, his smile faltering. "She's gone missing. Last seen heading to the co-op." We'd like to know your whereabouts on the day she disappeared. I don't know anything, he replied, his voice strained. She left, and that's all I know. You can't pin this on me. Sarah's gaze held steady. We just want to ensure her safety, Ira. Please cooperate. As he walked away, Sarah sensed an underlying tension. Ira's protests felt rehearsed, almost like he was hiding something beneath the layers of concern he feigned. The days stretched into weeks, with the investigation growing colder and Holly's absence echoing through the city. Friends and family clung to hope, but the looming fear of the unknown swallowed them whole. Sarah Thompson continued her relentless pursuit of the truth, piecing together fragments of a life once filled with promise and light. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to everyone, a dark secret lay hidden, waiting to be unearthed. A secret that would alter the course of many lives and unveil the chilling truth behind Holly's disappearance. As autumn deepened, the city buzzed with life, but beneath the surface lay a chilling silence, a whisper of danger that would soon come to light. Late September, Philadelphia. As the leaves began to change color, painting the streets of Philadelphia in hues of orange and gold, the city felt alive yet heavy with an air of uncertainty. The search for Holly Maddox had gained momentum, but with each passing day, the shadows of doubt grew longer, casting a pall over her friends and family. Detective Sarah Thompson was determined to find Holly. She spent hours sifting through reports, examining witness statements, and piecing together the timeline of events leading up to Holly's disappearance. The urgency of the situation gnawed at her, a relentless reminder of the stakes involved. The first break in the case came when Sarah received a call from Holly's friend, Michelle, who had been searching for more information. "Detective, I remembered something," she said, her voice shaky. "The last time I saw Holly, she mentioned she felt like someone was watching her. She even received a strange message warning her about Ira." "What did the message say?" Sarah's heart quickened, knowing this could be the key they needed. "It was something like, 'You don't know what he's capable of,'" Michelle replied, her tone filled with worry. It really scared her. "Do you know who sent it?" Sarah pressed, jotting down notes. "No, it was from an unknown number," Michelle said, but she seemed convinced it was serious. "We all thought she was just paranoid, but now we need to look into that message. It could lead us to her," Sarah said, her mind racing with possibilities. That evening, Sarah contacted the phone provider to trace the message, hoping to uncover its origin. As she waited for a response, she gathered her team to brainstorm leads. They focused on Ira Einhorn, whose charm was overshadowed by the mounting evidence against him. Ira had a motive. Holly was pulling away from him, and that could have triggered something dark within him, Sarah suggested, pacing the room. "We need to dig deeper into his background. Let's also look into any known associates of Ira's. He's well connected in the activist community, and someone might have seen something," one officer suggested. The next day, armed with new information, Sarah went back to Ira's apartment. She hoped to find something, anything, that could provide a clue. The atmosphere felt thick with tension as she stepped inside, the memories of Holly lingering in the air like a ghost. As Sarah combed through Ira's belongings, she uncovered pamphlets for upcoming rallies and environmental initiatives. Yet, her eye caught something unusual, a stack of letters neatly tucked away in a drawer. As she leafed through them, her stomach churned. The letters were filled with obsessive declarations about Holly, expressing a possessive love that bordered on madness. "You belong to me, and no one else can have you," one letter read. The ink seemed to drip with desperation, a disturbing glimpse into Ira's psyche. Just then, a uniformed officer entered. "Detective, we found something else you should see." He handed her a small notebook filled with Ira's musings. "He was writing about Holly. It gets intense." Flipping through the pages, Sarah's heart raced as she read snippets. She's the light of my life, and without her, I am nothing. But interspersed among the tender words were chilling notes about betrayal and paranoia. This isn't just infatuation, it's obsession, Sarah murmured, piecing together the puzzle. Armed with her discoveries, Sarah began interviewing more people from Holly and Ira's social circles. They uncovered unsettling stories about Ira's behavior, how he would hover around Holly, how he reacted with anger when he felt she was slipping away. One witness, a fellow activist named Tom, recalled a heated argument he had witnessed between Holly and Ira. They were at a protest. Holly wanted to leave, but Ira wouldn't let her. He grabbed her arm and pulled her back. It felt wrong, you know? Like he was trying to control her, Tom said, his brow furrowed with concern. Did you ever hear him threaten her? Sarah pressed. No, but there was a vibe. Like, if you crossed him, he would not take it lightly, Tom replied, his voice trembling. With each interview, the portrait of Ira grew darker, and Sarah felt the weight of the investigation pressing down on her. She knew they had to find Holly before it was too late. Days later, just as the leaves began to fall, Sarah received an unexpected tip from an anonymous source. The voice on the line was shaky but insistent. I saw her, detective. I saw Holly. She was at the old warehouse by the river, looking scared. Can you give me a location? Sarah's heart raced, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Yes, but you need to be careful. I don't want to get involved. It's dangerous, the voice warned before hanging up. With her heart pounding, Sarah rallied her team. We have a lead. We're heading to the warehouse near the river. The team arrived at the desolate location, an old structure that loomed like a haunted relic. The air felt thick with tension as they approached, the faint echo of water lapping against the shore nearby. Spread out. Check every room, Sarah ordered, her heart racing. The dilapidated building was filled with shadows, every corner echoing with uncertainty. As they moved through the warehouse, the atmosphere was oppressive, like the building itself held its breath. Detective, over here, one officer called, pointing to a door at the back of the building. Sarah rushed over, adrenaline coursing through her, as they pried the door open. Inside, they found a room filled with old furniture and debris. But there was no sign of Holly. Clear, shouted one officer, and just as they began to search the next room, Sarah's instincts kicked in. She felt a chill run down her spine, an awareness of being watched. Everyone be cautious, she commanded, the tension thickening the air. Suddenly, one of the officers stumbled upon something, a small pile of belongings tucked away in a corner. Detective, you need to see this. As Sarah approached, her heart sank. It was a backpack belonging to Holly, filled with her personal items, a journal, a few clothes, and a picture of her smiling with friends. It was undeniable. This was Holly's. This means she was here, Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. We're close. We need to find her. But just then, a loud noise echoed from the front of the warehouse, followed by the sound of footsteps. Sarah and her team exchanged worried glances. Get ready, she commanded, raising her firearm, heart pounding in her chest. The tension reached a fever pitch as they prepared to confront whoever was outside. The darkness felt alive, filled with secrets waiting to be unveiled. With the evidence mounting against Ira and the haunting discovery of Holly's belongings, the search for Holly took on a new urgency. Sarah's resolve strengthened as she felt the pressure to find Holly before it was too late. But as the shadows deepened and the night crept in, the question lingered. What had happened to Holly Maddox? The search was far from over, and as the investigation intensified, the darkness that shrouded her fate began to unveil the chilling truth, a truth that would resonate through the hearts of everyone who sought her. As the story unfolded, the city of Philadelphia became a backdrop for secrets and lies, a place where the illusion of peace was shattered by the echoes of a haunting past. Early October, Philadelphia. The chill of autumn deepened as October arrived, bringing with it a sense of urgency that permeated the search for Holly Maddox. The city, alive with festivities and the vibrant colors of fall, belied the darkness that had ensnared the lives of those who cared for her. Detective Sarah Thompson felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Time was slipping away, and the truth hung just out of reach. As night fell on the warehouse, Sarah and her team stood tense and alert. The footsteps outside grew closer, and the tension in the air thickened like fog. "Everyone stay sharp," Sarah commanded, her heart racing as they prepared for a confrontation. The sound of the door creaking open sent adrenaline surging through her veins. A figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light from outside. "Police! Identify yourself!" Sarah shouted, raising her weapon, the beam of her flashlight piercing the darkness. "I'm not here to fight!" The figure stepped forward, hands raised. It was a young man, disheveled and trembling. "I was just looking for someone." "Who are you looking for?" Sarah asked, lowering her weapon slightly. "Holly. I'm her friend," he stammered, glancing nervously around the room. "I thought I might find her here. She mentioned this place before. Where have you seen her? What do you know?" Sarah pressed, her instincts kicking in. "I saw her a few weeks ago. She looked scared. She said she was trying to get away from someone, from Ira," he said, his voice shaking. "I didn't know it was this serious until I saw the news." The young man introduced himself as Ethan, a fellow student who had crossed paths with Holly at various activist events. As he spoke, fragments of their conversations came rushing back to Sarah, connecting the dots of Holly's growing fear and paranoia. "She told me she felt like she was being watched, that something bad might happen. I thought she was just being dramatic, but now—" Ethan's voice trailed off, his face pale. "Did she say anything specific about Ira? Did he threaten her?" Sarah asked urgently. "She didn't go into details, but she mentioned he had a temper. I saw them together once, and it felt off. He had this way of looking at her, like she was his possession." Ethan replied, his gaze falling to the ground. With Ethan's testimony, Sarah felt a renewed sense of purpose. "You're going to help us find her. We need every lead we can get," she declared, her mind racing with possibilities. Over the following days, the investigation escalated as Sarah delved deeper into Ira's life. She combed through records, searching for anything that could provide insight into his whereabouts after Holly's disappearance. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly coming together, yet the picture remained frustratingly incomplete. One evening, as Sarah sifted through files at the precinct, a breakthrough emerged. An officer brought her a report detailing a suspicious rental transaction. "Ira rented a storage unit a week after Holly went missing," he said, eyes bright with excitement. "It's not far from his apartment. Let's go check it out," Sarah replied, heart pounding with anticipation. As they arrived at the storage facility, a sense of foreboding settled over Sarah. The unit was dimly lit, filled with the musty scent of age and neglect. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach as they approached the door of the unit. With a crowbar in hand, Sarah pried the door open, the rusted hinges creaking ominously. Inside, the darkness loomed, hiding secrets that had been buried for too long. The beam of her flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a chaotic collection of items, furniture, boxes, and in the far corner, something that made her blood run cold. "Over here," one officer called, his voice laced with urgency. As they approached, Sarah felt her heart race. A large trunk sat partially open, its contents hidden from view. With a deep breath, she steadied herself, knowing that whatever lay inside could be pivotal to the case. As they opened the trunk, The sight before them was haunting. Inside, they discovered a collection of Holly's belongings, clothes, books, and a journal filled with her writings, her thoughts, fears, and hopes. It was a testament to her life, but also a grim reminder of the darkness that had enveloped her. "Detective, look at this," another officer said, holding up a battered piece of paper. It was a note, hastily written, and it sent chills down Sarah's spine. "I'm afraid. He won't let me go. If something happens to me, you have to find him. This is it. We have to find Ira," Sarah said, her voice steady, a renewed determination igniting within her. The search for Ira intensified as Sarah put a plan into motion. They tracked down his known associates, hoping to gather information about his whereabouts. Each lead pointed to a man increasingly desperate and dangerous. Finally, after days of relentless pursuit, Sarah caught wind of Ira's location, an abandoned cabin in the woods, isolated and secluded. The air felt electric with tension as Sarah and her team approached, knowing that they were about to confront a man who had evaded justice for too long. As they neared the cabin, Sarah felt a mixture of fear and determination. "Remember, we don't know what he's capable of. Approach with caution," she reminded her team, gripping her weapon tightly. With a deep breath, they surrounded the cabin, the air thick with anticipation. "Ira Einhorn, this is the police. Come out with your hands up," Sarah shouted, her voice echoing through the trees. Silence hung in the air before the cabin door creaked open. Ira stood there, disheveled and wild-eyed, a manic grin spreading across his face. "You won't take me alive," he shouted, his voice tinged with madness. Chaos erupted as Ira darted back into the cabin, and the team moved swiftly to secure the area. "Stay behind me," Sarah commanded, her heart racing as they pushed forward. Inside, the cabin was dark and cluttered, a chaotic reflection of Ira's mind. As they searched room after room, the tension mounted. Suddenly, they heard a scuffle followed by a loud crash. "Ira!" Sarah yelled, adrenaline surging through her as they rushed toward the noise. In a small bedroom, they found Ira cornered, holding a knife, his eyes wild with fear and fury. "You don't know what you're doing. You're trying to ruin everything," he screamed. "Ira, put down the knife. This doesn't have to end badly," Sarah shouted, trying to keep her voice calm despite the chaos. "You don't understand. She was mine. I loved her," he roared, a mix of anger and despair flooding his words. In that moment, Sarah saw the fragility of Ira's psyche unraveling before her eyes. "Ira, this isn't love. You need help. Let us help you," she implored, hoping to reach the remnants of humanity buried beneath his madness. But Ira's resolve shattered the moment they began to close in. With a desperate lunge, he thrust the knife toward the nearest officer, causing a scramble as shots rang out. "I won't go back. You can't make me," he screamed, the cabin filling with chaos. Amidst the turmoil, Sarah lunged forward, tackling Ira to the ground as he struggled against her. "You have to stop. You're only hurting yourself," she yelled, adrenaline pumping through her veins. With a team effort, they restrained him, the weight of his resistance feeling futile against their numbers. "You are under arrest for the disappearance of Holly Maddox," Sarah declared, breathing heavily as they cuffed him. As Ira was led away, the reality of the situation settled heavily on Sarah's shoulders. She had faced the darkness head-on, but it came with a profound realization. The truth of Holly's fate still lay ahead, tangled within the web of Ira's mind. With Ira in custody, Sarah turned her focus to uncovering the full extent of his actions. The pieces were falling into place, but the journey to find Holly was far from over. As the city moved forward, enveloped in the crisp embrace of autumn, the search for truth and justice continued, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that could dwell within the human heart. Mid-October, Philadelphia. With Ira Einhorn in custody, the city braced itself for the next chapter of a saga that had captivated and horrified many. Detective Sarah Thompson felt a mix of relief and trepidation as she prepared for the upcoming trial. The evidence had piled up, but the biggest question remained: where was Holly Maddox? The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as people filed in, eager to witness the proceedings against Ira. Sarah sat in the front row, her heart heavy with the weight of the case. She had spent countless hours reviewing evidence, piecing together a narrative of obsession, manipulation, and ultimately violence. As the proceedings began, Ira's defense attorney painted a picture of a misunderstood man, an environmentalist whose passion for saving the planet had spiraled into madness. "My client is not a monster. He is a victim of circumstance, of a system that failed him," the attorney argued, his voice steady. But Sarah knew better. She watched as witnesses testified, each one shedding light on the toxic relationship between Ira and Holly. Friends described Ira's increasingly erratic behavior, how he would isolate Holly from her friends and family, and how he often threatened anyone who dared to challenge his control. The prosecution presented the evidence: letters, journals, and testimonies that laid bare the depth of Ira's obsession. Among the most damning pieces was the note found in the storage unit, where Holly had expressed her fear of Ira. "I feared he would hurt me," the note read, a chilling testament to the dread that had haunted Holly in her final days. The jury listened intently, faces grim as the reality of the situation settled in. Sarah felt a flicker of hope that justice might finally be served, but the shadow of uncertainty lingered. Would they truly understand the danger Ira posed? As the trial progressed, more details emerged. Ira's past revealed a troubling pattern of manipulation and control. Sarah learned about a history of relationships where he had exerted power over his partners, often resorting to intimidation to keep them in line. Each revelation painted a clearer picture of the man who had once been hailed as a champion of the environment. During the trial, a pivotal moment arrived when one of Holly's friends, Michelle, took the stand. Her voice quivered as she recounted the last conversation she had with Holly. "She told me she was scared. She felt trapped," Michelle said, tears brimming in her eyes. "I wish I had done more." As the courtroom absorbed her words, an unexpected twist unraveled. A witness, someone who had been reluctant to come forward, emerged from the shadows. "I have information about the day Holly disappeared," he said, his voice shaky but resolute. The courtroom fell silent as he recounted the events leading up to Holly's last known whereabouts. "I saw her leave the co-op that day. She was with Ira. They were arguing. I heard her say she wanted to break up. That's when I knew something was wrong." The admission sent shockwaves through the room. Sarah's heart raced. This was the confirmation they needed to build a stronger case against Ira. As the trial continued, the emotional toll weighed heavily on everyone involved. Sarah spent her nights restless, haunted by dreams of Holly's smiling face juxtaposed against the grim reality of her disappearance. The pressure mounted as the jury deliberated, each day stretching into a seemingly endless battle for justice. The tension in the courtroom was palpable when the jury finally returned with their verdict. Sarah held her breath, the moment suspended in time. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Ira Einhorn, guilty of first-degree murder," the foreman announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Relief washed over Sarah, but it was tempered by the profound sadness of Holly's absence. The conviction was a step toward justice, yet the pain of loss lingered. With Ira sentenced to life in prison, Sarah felt a bittersweet sense of closure, but the mystery of Holly's fate weighed heavily on her mind. Despite the conviction, the body of Holly Maddox had never been found, and the unanswered questions gnawed at Sarah's conscience. Determined to honor Holly's memory, Sarah continued the search for her remains. She collaborated with local authorities and volunteers, canvassing areas near the warehouse and the cabin where Ira had been found. Each day spent searching felt like a small tribute to Holly, a way to acknowledge her life and the impact it had on those who loved her. As the weeks turned into months, Sarah found herself drawn to the memories of Holly's vibrant spirit. She began a campaign to raise awareness about domestic violence and the importance of listening to victims. Her efforts ignited a community movement, bringing together activists, survivors, and advocates who sought to shed light on the darker corners of relationships shrouded in control and manipulation. One cold evening, Sarah stood before a gathering at a local park where candles flickered in the dusk. She shared Holly's story, a narrative woven with threads of love, loss, and resilience. Holly was not just a victim. She was a bright light extinguished too soon, Sarah declared, her voice steady but emotional. We must remember her and fight for those who still suffer in silence. The community rallied, inspired by Holly's memory. As the campaign gained momentum, Sarah felt a sense of purpose filling the void left by the tragedy. Each story shared, each voice raised in solidarity, echoed the hope that others would find the strength to break free from the chains of. Years passed, and the city moved forward, but Holly's memory remained alive in the hearts of those who had fought for justice. As Sarah continued her work, she never lost sight of the young woman whose life had been tragically cut short. One autumn day, while attending a memorial event, Sarah received a call from a local search and rescue team. "We found something in the woods near the cabin," the voice on the other end said, a tremor of urgency lacing their words. With her heart pounding, Sarah rushed to the site, hope and dread intertwining as she arrived. As they uncovered the remains, she felt a wave of emotions crash over her, relief mingled with sorrow. The search for Holly had reached its final chapter. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of autumn, Sarah knew she had honored Holly's spirit. The truth had emerged, and with it, the promise of justice and healing for those left behind.